Mm.
First comment of the day. Benjamin.
So am I. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. Oh, boy.
I have a, this is totally useless for the podcast, but for the filter in maybe.
Sure.
Are either of you guys fantasy football guys?
Mm-hmm.
I dislike fantasy football. I am
Dislike
not.
fantasy football.
Yeah.
So but you're aware who Matthew Berry is?
Yes. He was just on Ethan's pod, actually. I know who he is. I don't think I've ever consumed his content, but I know who he is.
Okay. So they've done this thing for a long time called like love, hate, and like players I love this week, players I hate this week based on matchup, based on, how many routes they're running, whatever it is. And his thing is that he was at one point 25 years ago, a comedy writer. That he was like on, I think it was staffed on literally one TV show. And so his thing is like, I'm funny. And he tries so hard to be funny within every little, like, here's why I don't like Kyle Pitts this week. And like, here's a funny tangent. And he just does it in every single one. And it's so bad. It's so horrendous. And it's just like, I value what he brings to the table.
He's remarkably successful, right? Like,
absolutely.
Obviously, the number one guy.
Totally. Yep. He is just so unfunny. It physically makes me ill. And you're reading the thing, and you have to skip through like paragraphs and paragraphs of him. Here's me trying to be funny again, and it's just like he's just trying. He's like hurting himself. He's like straining a shoulder trying to do it, and it's just like, buddy, just say the fantasy football stuff. You're the fantasy football guy. You're not the funny guy.
Do you think
it's brutal?
Do you think like when Zach Lowe turns on this podcast, he's just begging you to be funny instead of talking about basketball?
I would be great. I think that is reasonable of him to say. But it's not even. This isn't even me from a writing perspective.
Right.
Even just a consumer, as a consumer of stuff, he is trying. It's just the efforting. CJ, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of your disdain towards the league pass highlights of the guy who like rhymes.
The rhyming guy.
Rhyming. I guess my thought is sometimes it's appropriate to be funny, but it doesn't always. You don't always have to be trying to do that. And sometimes it's just like we can just say the thing, and it's not a.
That actually reminds me
comedy
of
convention.
When a lot of people start podcasts, like their first 20 podcasts is a lot of trying to be funnier than they actually are. I think people look at humor as like a window into being entertaining because it's like tangible in some way, whereas like being real is not, or if you're not going to break things down or whatever. But I'm sorry that Matthew Berry is trying to be funny.
I've just been reading it and I just was like, this feels like something I should talk about on the podcast. This podcast is the right avenue for me to be like, hey, just tell me why I shouldn't start Terry McLaurin and not like, here's a fucking story from 1970s. There's a pun that I could break my back over. I'm just like, buddy, just fucking.
Does that tarnish his expert opinion for you? Like, are you
a little, honestly, a little. Yes, if I'm being honest, a little. Absolutely. Because how many times per column do you think he writes? Where were we? Like so much. And where were we? I'm sorry for my ramble that I just went on. The beautiful journey that I just took you on comedically. Where were we?
Wow.
Oh, that's right. T. Higgins. Like,
poor Matthew Berry just catching like strays in this.
This isn't a stray. This is a direct
podcast.
hit. This is me aiming at him with I don't think he's good at this part of what he does. The other stuff, that's what he's good at. Okay. I value it. Thank you. But feel free to not do this part anymore. You don't have to.
Let's start the podcast. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by Matthew Berry and his humor. No. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. And brought to you by our friends at Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process at briggsauction.com. Big Barker. Get your Big Barker dog bed with a process pup patch at bigbarker.com/Ricky. Mortgage CS. Become a Mortgage CS Ricky VIP at mortgagecs.com/Ricky. And Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, after an offseason of saying that this is the best roster of Joel Embiid's career, the team fucking sucks. They are 0-3 and already being yelled at by a guy who just got here a month ago in the locker room in PJ Tucker. Things are going great. Before we get going, one place that things are great is Kinetic Skateboarding. I was at Bark in the Park yesterday in my camo Kinetic sweats, and I had my winter hat, my Kinetic winter hat, as it was really cold in the morning. Kinetic is great in all seasons, but I believe the fall is truly where the Kinetic gear shines. The hoodies, the hats, the pants, the sneakers that you can't get anywhere else. We love Kinetic, even if you're not a skateboarder like me. Total fraud. Go to kineticskateboarding.com and use promo code DaveSilver for 9.1% off your first order. I did mention Bark in the Park. A thank you. It was a hugely successful event. Our team raised $16,600. So thank you. All goes to Providence Animal Center. And thanks to our sponsors. So all in between the sponsor money and the funds we raised, over $25,000 went to Providence Animal Center yesterday, which is fucking great. So thank you. Thanks you to Mortgage CS. They were there yesterday sponsoring the Food Truck Festival. Ella Pavorsky, who skipped out on Bark in the Park, but did make a generous donation. Briggs Auction. I picked up my Briggs Auction stuff there yesterday. Body Bio and DraftKings Sportsbook. Thank you all so much for your support, and thanks to Providence Animal Center for your life-saving. And finally, we want to offer a congrats to Brian and Julie for getting married yesterday from their friend Brady. Brady says, I know the podcast means a lot to you and something we bond over every week. Couldn't be happier for you two and can't wait to celebrate with you. And also excited for Doc to completely ruin this season. So congratulations to Brian and Julie, who got married yesterday rather than watching the Sixers. Way to do it. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rice to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who is warming up his muscles for his positivity mental gymnastics he must display on this pod for everyone. That is one, Mike Levin.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people think that I'm going to be, with the first comment, I think someone said it's Mike in a dark room and convincing.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And then other people would be more like, Mike's going to be optimism guy. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of in the middle.
Yep.
Of those things. But really, like, look, to be 100% honest with you, 100%, I'm very happy about the Phillies.
Mm-hmm. And it's making it difficult for you to emotionally figure out where you are with the 76ers.
By a lot. By a lot. And the Eagles 6-0, I mean, like, things are good.
Mm-hmm.
Things are good. And the Sixers right now, 3 games into the season, the regular season,
mm-hmm.
which I have notoriously never cared about.
Mm-hmm.
Although I guess making the playoffs would have to happen for them to make a playoff run.
Right. At their current pace, that would be unlikely.
Yeah, current pace would be tough. Right now, it's just like it feels a little bit funny that the Sixers are 0-3, and not as not as much of a sky is falling situation. We've seen them collapse in the playoffs. And we've seen bad Sixers teams go 3-0 to start the season.
For sure.
And what happened then?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Right.
So maybe this is the opposite of that, and that's good. Yeah, I mean, so I just feel like it's early. I feel like it's a regular season, which I don't care about. I don't love how many minutes everyone is playing, and they don't look good. But, I guess the idea, just like emptying the clip here, the idea that if they play bad enough, that supposedly Doc could be the, Joe Girardi to
right.
Sam Cassell or whoever's Rob Thompson.
Or maybe Rob Thompson. They just wait until the Phillies run is over and fire Doc and replace him with Rob Thompson, Phillies manager.
That's very funny to imagine. Rob Thompson's like demeanor. He's the most like I'm chewing a sunflower seed quietly to myself person on the planet. I think his demeanor, he has so little personality that like doubles back around and he has a great personality. It's very funny.
Right.
And seeing that on a basketball coach it's a different vibe for sure.
Well, the Sixers are lucky. In your mood, I think obviously is reflected in Philadelphia. And right now, in terms of, obviously if you're listening to this podcast, you care. But in terms of general media scrutiny and fan scrutiny, I think many Philadelphians are like, fuck it. Let's just like concentrate on the things that are fun instead of the things that are miserable. Mm-hmm. I do think... So there's so many things. Here are the list of things that I just sort of want to go over because like I don't want to belabor one specific game. Like we talked after the Celtics game, but now we have the Bucks game and the Spurs game to add to it. And I think there are a bunch of different things. There is the on-court rhythm between Harden and Embiid. There's that. There's the deepest team that we've ever had somehow not quite deep enough to play more than 8 guys and the starters all play 39 minutes, right?
Sure.
There is the fact that the bench has scored 30 points in 3 games, like not great, Yeah. There's the coach, right? There is and there is how Embiid has looked to the eye, even with, you look at I watched the game this morning because there's a wedding last night. So you look at the box score and you're like, whoa, maybe Embiid played great. And then you watch the game and you're like, maybe not. Then there's on top of that, I'm sorry, there's just a lot of things here. I just want to lay them out. There's by the way, Joel Embiid had plantar fasciitis over the offseason. That's why he's out of shape. And also his hand hurts. It's like, oh, okay, sure. And then, of course, there is I think is that everything? There's a lot of things. Right? There's a lot of things. Oh, and then I think on top of everything, that we got the report from Noah Levick yesterday that Doc Rivers had said in the press conference, just because I didn't see the presser, so I'm crediting Noah Levick with this, that PJ Tucker's yelling in the locker room after the game that if they want to win, they're going to have to earn it. PJ Tucker, who I guess we would expect something like that from, but kind of not great when it's like, the guy who just got here and not one of like the 2 best players who seems perturbed by it. So which thing? I mean, Embiid. Okay. Can we start with Embiid or do you want to start with Doc? I feel okay. Embiid. Like all of this shit has got to stop, right? The moping on the court stuff and the coming to camp out of shape, starting the season out of shape or whatever. It's just not what best players on championship teams do at all. And getting your ass busted over and over again by Jakob Poeltl, like down the stretch in a game, who like beats you on rebounds and then like scores on you if you're the best defensive center in the league. Just like it can't happen. And you can't be throwing your arms up at Tobias Harris, even though he blew a defensive assignment down the stretch in the Bucks game. Like all this shit. Like we cannot keep advocating for him as like this best player in the world type shit. And then you look at it and all the other best players in the world type shit are not doing things like this. And we'll get to the, like, cause we've, a listener sent us some quotes from Media Day that we all sort of laughed off. And now maybe we shouldn't laugh off. But like also the excuse making stuff is like, if you don't want to brag before the season about how hard you worked, you just want to do that in silence. Okay, fine. But I also like don't want to hear like some sort of surprise that you had plantar fasciitis and that's why you're out of shape, and oh, your hand hurts that you had surgery on it, is like, nah, I'm just sort of over that. And it would be nice if like they were 0-3, but he was averaging 44 and 12 and we could blame someone else. But like, he's looked like shit defensively. He's looked like shit. His mood, like all of it, he's looked like shit. And it's just kind of a bummer, I think, as I think two people, you and I, who have advocated for credit for him, and that the team should be like based around him and he should be able to have a say on personnel. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, here we are again. So that's a lot. Sorry.
No, yeah. I mean, I definitely defensively, Joel has not looked close to the Joel that we've come to expect. And it's kind of hard to fathom. Something just looks off the whole team. Like, it just seems like there's plays that they look cohesive. There's moments where they look like that's stringing together a couple good possessions. But then like that just goes away. And there seems to be like the Sixers offensively look confused more often than their opponent looks confused offensively. And that is a bad sign. The Sixers should have, there's some new pieces, but not too many. They should have more cohesion. They should have like play with more togetherness. There should be like a plan.
By the way, the starting lineup only has one new piece, and he, in many ways, operates exactly like the piece that he replaced.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
And Harden has obviously played extensively with PJ before.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did think Embiid had his best offensive game yesterday against the Spurs. Jakob Poeltl is a good defender. He only turned the ball over twice. That's a good sign. Why did they lose? I don't know why they lost to the Spurs.
They can't. I mean, honestly, so we talked about like the potential for them defensively, but like the starting lineup wise, it doesn't pass the eye test.
We haven't seen it yet. No.
Yeah, it doesn't pass the eye test. They're too slow. When you start thinking about it in terms of the pieces and you start saying it out loud, you're like, well, wait a minute. Like, even if Maxey improved, Maxey Harden backcourt defensively, like you're starting like behind the start line in the race. And then you look at Tobias, who has like built himself into like a capable thing, but he's not, if you're switching him onto a guard or an athletic small forward, he's going to have trouble. And then Embiid is a great defender, but he's not like particularly mobile on the perimeter. And there's only really one guy in the starting lineup who is capable of being a switchable defender in a good scheme. And I just like defensively, I don't know how this works, right? Like I know I had said beforehand, before the season, that I think you got to put Melton maybe in the starting lineup and bench Harris. But like with the problems that they've had scoring off the bench and the sort of inability to keep up speed wise and switching wise in the starting lineup, like that seems like it might. I don't know if you can bench a guy making $38 million and bring him off the bench, but like, and obviously that shouldn't solve everything. Joel Embiid's got to play better. James Harden has to act like he even cares, like even a little bit defensively. But you wonder how long they can look this ineffective defensively and without changing something.
There's a lot. The problem with me, like Harden, like Maxey is not as good defensively as you need him to be, especially I think the whole team right now. Off ball is the issue. I think there's a lot of like people getting by at the point of attack for sure. But it seems like Tobias has always been prone to like turn around. That happened in the Bucks game that they should have won. Like that's my least favorite play, is when you're going to half double but not actually double and just sort of stay in this like middle space. I'm just like, hey, I'm just going to be as unhelpful as possible and give up an open three to take the lead. That was a horrible, horrible, horrible play from Tobias, and something that he has done before, and also that Harden does defensively, which is just like turn around and leave and miss his man, just like ball watching and letting yourself get beat. Also, like if Grayson Allen wants to hit a floater going the opposite way over Joel, like great, then God bless him to tie it. Like he just a really, really horrendous play from Tobias there. But to your point earlier, like Joel could display some more leadership qualities and not like completely put him on blast right away on the court. But yeah, I mean it's off ball. They seem like the other team just keeps getting like open shots. They keep getting, it's just like a scramble and miscommunication and open shot. And Joel's looking the other way and he's beat by, you know, whoever. Right by it happened in the opening night a bunch of times, like Brogdon or whatever. And it's just like, man, we have not seen them like the Bucks Sixers was a slog, but I didn't feel like, and I think PJ did a relatively good job on Giannis.
I thought so too.
But there's never been like that moment in those few games in the Raptors series when they seemed suffocated, when they seemed like the Sixers' size and length and anticipation is like getting the best of them. And it's probably because of because of the two guards. Like it's not as good of a defensive team as that team was, but they should be better. I think they will be better. It's not like convincing myself. Like they're not going to finish 0-82. I think they'll put it together. It would be
hard for them not to get better, I think.
Because I mean, like Doc said, I think some people were like, I think I may have saw like Sixers Adam or something, like reacting to this quote in a negative way, saying like, we're not ready to win yet.
Yes, that was the quote.
And that's just like undeniably true. Like they should have won the Milwaukee game and they should have handled business here and they didn't. And so like obviously this team, as a collection of guys that are trying to play together, like there's something off, and that is something they're going to have to figure out as the season goes on, of like what their bread and butter is, like consistent, like commitment to like the scheme or whatever the fuck. Like they just don't, something doesn't look right. And yeah, I mean like the pouting Joel is tough, and I'm definitely tired of the like, actually here's what's wrong. Plantar fasciitis is a scary word. That is upsetting.
Or hurts.
And it was a bummer.
Yeah, it's hard to get over. You just have to rest. Like the thing about plantar fasciitis is like you really just have to stay off of it for almost like a hamstring, longer than you think you do to make sure that it goes away. But like, I don't know, like whatever. I want to get to that Doc quote in a second. Right after I talk about Briggs Auction. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process. Love Briggs Auction. Delco, 4-generation family owned and operated. Finally got to meet Stephen Turner, who runs Briggs, him and his lovely wife, as they were a Bark in the Park sponsor. And he brought me my Briggs Auction winnings. So I'm like this giant spooky painting in my car, these weird posters from Vietnam, and an autographed Elvis thing that I got. Love it. And he was giving away a Charles Barkley autographed basketball if you sign up for the newsletter yesterday. It was great. Briggs Auction is a lot of fun. Every week at this point till the end of the year, there's a new auction, whether it's an estate auction, a discovery auction. What they do is they just go around the entire area and look at giant lots, like people, whether, like I said, whether it's a estate auction, whether somebody's, downsizing their stuff or whatever, and you end up with great sports collectibles, great music collectibles, furniture, like classic furniture that you're never going to find anywhere else, art that you're never going to see anywhere else. And it's just fun to look at the shit in the auction every single week. I love Briggs Auction. I love them more after meeting them, and I think it's just a fun thing to do at this point every week, is to look what's in the auction at Briggs. Go to briggsauction.com/Ricky, briggsauction.com/Ricky. There's an app as well that is in Google Play and the App Store. That is Briggs Auction, BRIGGS. And I'm telling you, just take a look. Furniture wise, you're going to get like one of a kind pieces that you're not going to find anywhere else, and you're not going to have to wait for 6 months for them to make it. If you want to downsize or have an estate or something to sell, and you think Briggs might be for you, info@briggsauction.com is the email address. Once again, briggsauction.com. Love Briggs Auction. Okay. The quote was directly, "We're not ready yet, honestly. We're just not. We're not ready to win yet. You can feel it. We got a lot of work to do." Now, to your point, obviously true. Question being, why? I think I think you can see the quote and recognize that he's being honest and straightforward and give him credit for that. But then also say, okay, well, you basically knew this team, not just last year, And I don't want to hear that there was any sort of like thought that Harden might not be here. Everybody knew he was going to be here. You basically got PJ Tucker and Daniel House as quickly as you could have in the offseason. And they're, to your point, they're both players that Harden is familiar with, and one of whom Embiid basically asked for in Tucker, and plays the role that should be fine for Embiid to play with. There's really no excuse for them not to be ready, I think, is my issue. Now, they're not like Boston in that they were fucking really good last year and they brought almost everybody back and they're ready to go. I understand they shouldn't be on that level, but the sort of the discombobulation, even if we're talking about the pieces are the pieces in the starting lineup, and maybe they're not good enough defensively, but they don't even look as good as they should look in that case. And offensively, it just kind of looks like a mess. They go through stretches where it works, but overall it sort of looks like a mess. And you just have to wonder why that's the case. And I think that either goes back to Embiid and Harden as the best players, or it goes back to Doc as the coach. Like, you watch them and you don't ever really get a feel of what they are offensively, except for the times when it looks like the Harden sort of thing that you've seen before, looks like a mishmash.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to note that Boston last year was under 500 as of January, and then finished the year very strong, and obviously went where they went. They just, something seems off. I will say that it doesn't seem, last podcast you were saying like, oh, we're saying the same thing that we've always said about this team. This feels different. The issues with the Sixers right now don't feel like they're not getting to loose balls. They're getting out toughed. It's just Joel not figuring out a double team or whatever it is. Like, it seems like more just, I don't know, something's out of whack in a way that feels unfamiliar. Like, they are getting to loose balls. They're not like giving up a ton of offensive rebounds. It's not like they're getting, they have athleticism. The bench, I guess, is familiar. Sure. The bench, yeah, that feels close to home. I don't know why the bench is not as good. I think it is Melton has been disappointing to me. I had very high hopes for him. House has been pretty bad.
House stinks.
Trez,
I mean, he looks like he might stink.
Yeah.
House.
Trez is tough. They tried, 3 minutes of Matisse yesterday. Like, Doc just seems like he's already like, Doc seems like he's coaching a playoff game a little bit, in not in a good way, of just like, I gotta try it all, and everyone's got to play. Like, there's no reason for Harden to play 40 minutes like in this game, like back to back 40. Like, these guys are too old to do this. Like, you gotta, and I think some of their effectiveness will wane the more minutes that you play them. Like, it's not just a health thing, but like the more they rest, the more that they can be fresh, and you should be able to trust bench guys. And the fewer minutes that you play Harden, Maxey together, the better defense you should theoretically have. And it's just nothing seems right now. Like, there was a stretch in the Milwaukee game where that small ball lineup was working, especially Embiid played horrendous. He was 6 of 21. So the small ball lineup was working, and it was like, should we not bring Embiid in? Like, should this not happen?
Yeah.
Should we just stick with this? Because they ran on like some 12-0 run or something like that. To get back in the game, which, get the bell ready. I stuck with the lineup that we made a nice little comeback as a coach in Alyssa's game. We were down.
I like the evolution of you as player to you as coach.
This is it. This is
just
the journey
in the
we're
references.
going on.
Yeah.
This is the journey we're going on. But I stuck with this lineup that, even though there were good players on the bench, you're like, look, this is working. You ride the hot hand. Came back to win, which felt good. I would be tough to do that with Joel Embiid, but and then to end that game with like a Joel ISO when he was already playing very badly, I thought was probably generous in like hoping your best player saves you, but it didn't seem like the right fit for that moment because of how good Harden looked and how bad Embiid was looking.
So offensively, I was watching There have been moments where Harden and Embiid run a pick and roll and it gets Embiid an easy bucket, for sure. There are also moments where, I don't know what my point is. I'm trying to get to it here. There are also moments where they run it, Embiid has a shot, he doesn't take it because he's not used to just taking the shot that's there, and he like does a dribble move or two, and he could have had an easier shot. So if he's just sort of, was more, I think, quick with that decision, which has always been his thing, more in passing, less in shooting, I think he would get more of those. But there's also moments, and I noticed this in the Bucks game, where Embiid is setting pick after pick after pick after pick. Sometimes Harden shooting, sometimes they go, and I just I can't, and this gets me to what is the offense really? What is this going to settle upon in terms of the hierarchy of how many times we're doing things? Because Harden for so long has been either multiple pick and roll or multiple ISO, and everything circles around him. And I just have to be, there is no fucking way, rightly or wrongly, Joel Embiid is going to go into every game setting 1 million picks for James Harden. Physically, it's not going to work. It's not really his game, right or wrong. And I think it's part of why we're seeing some of the demeanor we're seeing is that everything is so Harden-centric offensively, which I think also contributes to the long periods of time where we see Maxey sort of disappearing. As here are 3 really good offensive players, none of whom are particularly great, not being the focus of attention. And that's why you get a little my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. And I just do wonder what are they offensively, and what is their identity, and that leads to, and when you see Harden without Embiid on the floor, everything looking sort of smoother because everybody's just doing the Harden thing for Harden. But I don't think any of us think that we're going to win a championship that way. So I just wonder what the final version of them is offensively. I don't think they know, but I would worry, and we'll get to this eventually, but I'd be concerned that Embiid turns into Clint Capella or something, and he doesn't want to do that. And I feel like I can see that on his face. I don't know if I'm projecting, but I feel like I can see that on his face.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Harden has been thus far significantly better than Embiid, and I think better than he was last year. So to say that we should be working through Embiid more makes sense broadly, but it hasn't through 3 games, although he was definitely better in the Spurs game offensively. It is, yes. I don't disagree that it feels like a my turn, your turn thing, and it feels like there's aside from the occasional play where the ball movement is the ball's really popping and swinging around to get an open look or get a cut, because they're doubling Embiid, and then Harden swings it quickly and finds Tobias cutting or whatever it is. That's nice. Those are a couple things like that, but it doesn't sustain. There's not enough of it. They are currently, at least per Basketball Reference, the slowest team in the league. Their pace is 30 out of 30.
Well, that's not surprising at all, given your eye test. It's not surprising, and who the players are.
Yeah, and when other teams it wasn't as bad of an issue last game, the transition against the Spurs, but there were times off of makes where the Spurs got a quick bucket out of it, and you're just come on, just taking the air out of you. I don't know. I feel like in previous years you have a firmer handle on why it's not working. And it's definitely the players aren't playing good enough, obviously. But something is just not quite clicking in a way that it should be. And that's on Doc, and that's on the players and all that stuff. And I don't care that PJ Tucker, as a guy who won a championship and the guy who just got here being this isn't fucking good enough. Great. I want him doing that. I want him being in that role.
I just wonder what the response to that is, and how, maybe I'm wrong, but isn't part of it just so demeaning's the wrong word, but I just wish one of the better players were in there saying that to everybody. I love PJ Tucker. He's probably Danny Green slides out, Tucker slides in as the guy that I like or whatever. I love that he does that, but I question whether your team can be led by somebody who isn't one of the best players on the team. I think one of those players can be a leader, but I don't think PJ Tucker can be the one getting everyone together and saying, "Hey guys, we're not working hard enough." the fact that we're 3 games in and that's where we are is sort of like, I forget what player it was talking about, like players only meetings. You don't want to see more than one players only meeting in a season, or you're getting nervous. I'm nervous that PJ Tucker's yelling at everybody. They're not even trying hard enough, and we're 3 games into the fucking season.
Yeah, I mean, that's just his role. If Embiid said that to other guys, then it'd be like, well, buddy, what the fuck are you doing? You look like shit out there. Like you're not playing as well. So yeah, I don't mind it. I think it's from a veteran leader that's won before. I think that everybody knows his role. Everyone knows that he's like playing his ass off and sacrificing and stuff. And he's not going to put up a ton of stats, obviously, but he's doing what needs to be done to win ball games and stuff. And
yeah, I think
nobody else really
great.
is. Like,
I mean, Tucker's played great.
He's been fine. Yeah, he's been totally fine. Maxi's been okay. Like it's not like on an individual level aside from Embiid. Like the other starters are like pretty much doing their job, but something is not clicking right, whether it's Doc not pressing the right buttons or rotations or just the bench being relatively non-existent. I wonder what like Shake and Korkmaz and B-Ball Paul or whatever are like sitting there watching the game being like, well, I could do this. I could play 9 scoreless minutes. I don't know. It's been a weird start to the season. And I think part of it, at least I haven't watched any games start to finish live yet. Mm-hmm. I've seen some of the game live, but then I've gone back and watched the rest of it. And so I'm not like living and dying with the every possession.
Yep.
It's like feeling, it's just a different feeling watching the game. And so hopefully I can do that going up, but Phillies keep fucking winning. So,
So I want to get to Harden specifically and then Doc specifically. After I tell you about Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. They were there at Bark in the Park yesterday. Of course they were there. They've been with us forever. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. Bigbarker.com/Ricky. Met 3 dogs yesterday who sleep on Big Barkers. All of them love it. One of their owners, was it Piper? Was it Piper's owner, saying that, I think Piper's 10. They're like, look, I don't know if it's the bed, but Piper definitely feels like she is springy for her age. It can't hurt. Big Barker can't hurt. Most dog beds, complete shit. Big Barker, a real bed. That's all I can tell you. It is engineered by experts to support your dog's joints properly. It's been proven by Penn Vet that it helps in joint function and pain severity. It's not just for old dogs. It's for young dogs too. It's not just for huge dogs. It's for small dogs too. They have Barker Jr. all the way up to the big one. You can just see the difference. When you look at the pictures, you can feel the difference when you hold it, and it's different for your dog. And that is part of your responsibility to your dog. Keep your dog happy and keep your dog healthy. Because your dog, at least my dog, fucking runs my life. So go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. Bigbarker.com/Ricky. That's where you get the Big Barker dog bed with the processed pup patches. You get 2 of them for free. And you send us a picture of your dog on the bed with the patch on it. We put them in the processed pup gallery. I love dogs. I loved seeing all the dogs yesterday. I loved meeting the processed pups yesterday at Bark in the Park. It was great. There is a 10-year warranty on the bed. So you look at it, you're like, wow, $200 for a dog bed. 10-year warranty. Foam does not flatten, or they replace it for free. 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, your dog doesn't like it, they give you a full refund, and they pay for the shipping. And it is handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. So Harden had 2 great games, I thought. Obviously, statistically, the first 2 games. The game against the Spurs only scored 12 points, but looked a reasonable facsimile of what we saw in the first 2 games. It just
missed shots.
Yeah, missed shots. The one thing from now, when we go, I know what is stuck in our mind is Heat giving up Harden, which was disgraceful, but not totally about his play. It was about his engagement. You go back to the first few games the Sixers had Harden, and everything looked amazing. He was like scoring 30, like he was having like 30-point triple doubles those first few games. My concern about watching Harden is twofold. One is that literally everything is coming from jump shots, whether they're mid-range or 3-pointers. It's like he is not getting to the rim, and everything getting to the rim is that, hoping to get fouled, arms up in the air thing. It's not even like, it doesn't even seem like a legitimate attempt at scoring. And the other thing is the whole thing where he's looking his best in that way that I don't think they can play to win everything. They could play that way for stretches, but I want to see him looking his best with Embiid on the court, which is as much about Embiid as it is about Harden. I think from a success standpoint, I think he looks fine. But I don't think he looks that much different than he did when he got here last year.
No, I mean, he's not a totally new player, but I think there's definitely more burst. I think there's more pop. I think he is beating guys off the dribble. There are at least a couple times in the Spurs game where he got to the rim and sort of just missed a couple bunnies in a weird way. Maybe he got fouled, wasn't getting it. I've been happy with Harden's play offensively. I think that this is like he's opened up passing lanes. He's finding Joel. There's a handful of unfocused, lazy plays or whatever, but I think overall Harden's been good. Harden's been what they need him to be offensively, and that's not necessarily the issue. Like, yeah, he shot 4 of 18 last night. That shouldn't happen. I don't think it. I think it's more a couple weird things. I like that. Look, do I want him to become a mid-range jump shooter? Do I want him to become DeMar DeRozan? No, but having it as an option, I think, is very big. There were times both last year for the Sixers and in previous years with the Rockets where he just looked like a little bit of like short-circuiting when he's left open, when they're like protecting the rim and like running him off the line. And so like I'm happy that he is it at least gives him some like creativity and some other options where in the playoffs, if the Sixers get there, he won't have to like just totally shut down. Like it's good. It's important to have those kinds of options. And he looks good from the mid range. I'm happy for him to keep taking it from time to time. I'm not like dying for, 8, 12-foot jump shots a game from him, but I think it's been nice to see. And it's been nice to see. It's just like, as far as like, hey, watching him like develop his game, or not, obviously it's not like crazy new, but like be willing to change. Mm-hmm. I think Harden, to me, you can look around the league, Westbrook, probably another one, but like one of the more reluctant to change type of players that there are. The catch and shoot stuff, the moving off ball stuff, that kind of thing. But I feel like he is, he's going to fall asleep on defense, which is frustrating. But I think for the most part, it's been good to see his offensive game so far. And I obviously would feel much better if they were like 2-1 or something, but
it's hard to complain about Embiid, or not Embiid, about Harden so far. I think. So before we get to Doc, I do want to thank the mayor of Delco on Twitter, who DM'd us this on the Ricky, that pulled these clips from Media Day. CJ, if you wouldn't mind bringing it up before we get to Doc, they're interesting Embiid clips given what we were being told this week about the plantar fasciitis and his hand hurting and him sort of looking like the same player, just not quite in shape. So the first clip is when they asked him about what he added in the off season. CJ, would you mind? There we go.
For you, given how the season ended with your couple of injuries, just how are you feeling, and maybe how did the recovery process impact what you were able to do this summer?
I'm feeling great. I was in bed all summer, so.
For you, given.
There we go. So he says he was in bed all summer. He laughs. Everyone assumes that he's kidding. So the follow-up to this, they ask him, there's 3 total clips. How did you work on your game in the off season? They follow up on I was in bed all summer.
MVP caliber seasons. How do you feel like your game went to another level this offseason? In what ways did you work on your game to take it to another level?
Like I said, I was chilling on the couch. So I didn't really work on my game. So we just going to have to wait and see how the season goes.
Okay. So we all laugh. We continue to laugh. But
no, I mean, that one, you're like, okay, he's being serious. Like,
yeah. So then, and this is fine on audio, but on video is a little bit better. They bring up these comments to George Niang and Shake Milton, and they ask them what they think. And Niang's face and Milton's face, I'm telling you, if you're listening on Spotify or look at the video, or if you have the ability to go to YouTube or something, or Spotify or Twitch or something, look at the video. So here we go. Here is when Yang and Milton were approached.
Try to take his game to even another level this offseason. He joked that he spent the offseason on the couch, which is probably not true. So in what ways do you guys notice that Joel even took his game to the next level?
Did he really say that?
Yeah, twice.
That's not surprising. But no, I mean, I was out in LA for a little bit, and I got to see, Joel. And obviously, I think the thing that's admirable about Joel is, I was telling someone earlier, is like, no matter how many times he failed or has had to miss because of an injury or snipped out of an award, he comes back with the same passion and drive to be even better. And I know he jokes around, said he was sitting on the couch, but I mean, it's admirable. The guys like us, you see a guy like that with all the achievements that he's had, all the money that he's made, and he still comes in and works like he's trying to make the team. He's a diligent worker, and I think that's why this team has been successful and is going to be successful when you have a guy like that, the leader and the star player of your team, works that hard.
So basically, said nothing. Like, talked around it. No, I saw him in LA. He doesn't know that he saw anything specifically in LA. I don't know. Going back to these quotes now, and they're like, "Hey, what'd you do all season?" He's like, "Ha ha, I was on the couch." And they're like, "No, really, what'd you work on?" He's like, "Nah, I told you I was on the couch."
I think with Joel,
yeah.
I was thinking about this, and it was a little bit different in the Spurs game, but I was thinking about this after the Bucks game before I learned about the plantar fasciitis. I think he's one of the most human superstars that we have. And it feels his motivation and what he's got going on always feels very, maybe fans all feel this about their player, about their main guy, but like it feels very clear to us. Mm-hmm. And to me, it was very clear that he has been frustrated for years that he's never been really healthy for the playoffs. Well, the one time he was healthy, it was when Ben broke his back and nobody else was there. Every other year he's had various crazy injuries, whether it's like the face stuff on 2 occasions, one on Markelle, one on Siakam, or, fucking bad duties that one year. Plenty of stuff. And I think he put to bed the idea of like winning an MVP last year and is like, okay, I'm just going to make sure I'm healthy for the playoffs. And then it became, everything I need to do is to make sure I'm healthy for the playoffs. And that means giving less effort in the regular season. And so you can see him not doing as much as he normally would. You can see him like kind of lag. Like that is he doesn't want to tear up his ankle or something, whatever it is. Like you can see him, that his sluggishness a lot of the time to me reads as he is very clearly like trying to hold himself back. And there has to be a solution where he can be very effective, very helpful to winning, while also not like running into the stanchion and jumping into the stands or whatever. Like those kind of things. There has to be a middle ground. But I think with Joel, because we've seen him for so long, and because we know what he's like and what he's struggled through, it feels very clear to me that this is a guy. Obviously now he's working back from what he went through in the offseason, whatever, surgery. But to me, it also feels like he is like almost stubbornly determined to not be hurt for the playoffs.
That is the most generous reading of this.
But it's not. But I don't even think it's generous. I think it's just like he's not playing good enough. He has to be better.
For sure.
But I think that there is part of it that of like he is the most like turn it off, turn it on kind of guy. Not in the way that like I don't know Shaq was or whatever. Like he's just I don't know. We have watched so much. I've watched almost every minute of Joel's like basketball career, and I just feel like you can tell when he's locked in or not. And the comments that he made after the season and the offseason and media day, whatever, was like just about needing to be healthy for the playoffs. And I think that is driving him more than anything else. And he's tired of like regular season success and then having to come up short in the playoffs. I think he is like determined on it. And so, which I get and I feel, but he's got to be better.
Before we get to Doc, the last part of this, what do you think about moving either Maxey or Harris to the bench? To like, they're already moving it around a little bit, so Maxey gets some time on his own, but he might benefit from more time on his own. And they've had so much. They obviously are not comfortable playing Shake Milton, and like, I understand most of the scoring is going to come from the starters, but like, they can't score 7 points a game.
Yeah, I mean, they need to tinker with the bench. Part of it is just giving it more time, and things will happen, shots will fall, whatever. But like, I would definitely give Shake a look, 100%. And I would try to stagger Maxey and Harden as much as possible, because there's a mismatch out there all the time with them. And if you're up, then you can deal with that, and then you can go offense, defense, and stuff. But which Doc has been willing to do, which I've been happy to see, like throwing in Melton in here and there, throwing into Matisse in here and there. Like, I would just try to make sure that one of them is always on the court, and they're not both playing like as many minutes as they currently are playing. And that's like working the bench, get some fresh legs, see who gets hot. Like, it's too early in the season to be like burning everyone. I just don't.
I'm right about some things, wrong about others. I told you this was going to fucking happen, that they were all going to play too many minutes. I knew it. Okay, so Doc. How much of this is Doc's fault? Do you think Doc Rivers is going to get fired? And we'll get to Bill Simmons in a second. Bill Simmons mentioned that Doc is on a short leash, and that he would bet on Mike D'Antoni being coach of the year this year. Do you think Doc's going to get fired?
Wow. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, would I be fine with it if Doc was fired in like a month and Sam Cassell took over? Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be great.
How much of this do you think is his fault?
At least a part of it.
Yeah.
But like, it's 3 games. Like, it is 3 regular season games. And I think I get 2 of them against good teams. One of them an inexplicable loss against a team that was hitting shots, but like, you can't lose the Spurs. You can't lose the Spurs at home when they're on a second night of a back-to-back and you're 0-2. Like, it just
Shut up, Brett Brown.
It cannot happen. It simply cannot happen. And so that, I think, is reason for PJ Tucker to be like, what the fuck? But it is, to me, I feel a little at sea with why it's not working right now. And so Doc is at least partly to blame with that, but I don't feel like I have like the answer right now that they are simply like not doing, in a way that like I felt like I had the answer with playing b-ball Paul over DeAndre Jordan last playoffs. Like, that was the answer, and it was the right one. But here it just seems like, I don't know, fucking figure it out, guys. Like, it's a little bit of just like, play better, hit shots, move the ball, make quicker decisions, defend, like, communicate better. It's just like, do the basketball stuff. And it feels like once that happens, and they just play a little tighter, then they should win a basketball game, possibly.
Before a great mailbag. I want to give credit. We got an email from Ukraine, and like, the fact that this is the main concern of this person in Ukraine is the Sixers is amazing. We wish him safety and health, of course. Before we do, Mortgage CS. Become a Ricky VIP. You can't go to anybody else for a mortgage before you go to Mortgage CS. That's all I ask. I'm not saying that you have to get your mortgage through Mortgage CS, but I'm telling you that if you go there to at least educate yourself and find out what it's all about, you will be better for it. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. Mortgagecs.com/Ricky. You can see in the care they put into the /Ricky part of their site is a reflection on the care that they show to the people who go there to get a mortgage. You see, they're not a lender. They don't give you the money. They're a broker. So they go to places and find you the best rate. They find the money for you. But the most important thing about them is that they're independent. So they don't have ties to any one bank. Sometimes when you go to a mortgage broker, they might have a relationship with a certain bank. So they want to sway you to go you that way because it benefits them financially. But that's not what Mortgage CS is about. Mortgage CS is about educating you on mortgages. They're about getting you the best rate. And they're about, when you walk away, knowing more than when you came there. I met 3 people yesterday at Bark in the Park who all went to Mortgage CS for their mortgage, Ricky people, and all said, man, it almost seemed fake how nice they were and how helpful they were. And exactly as we describe on the podcast. Saw Alec there yesterday. It was great. They were giving out t-shirts. Love Mortgage CS. Really proud to have them as a sponsor. And I thank them for their support of Bark in the Park and the Food Truck Festival yesterday. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. Mortgagecs.com/Ricky. That's where you can set up a consultation, or just text Ben, the CEO, at any point. They're always ready for you, not just now, but through the process of getting a home and getting a mortgage. They're always going to be on guard for you. Call or text Ben at 267-391-7425. That is 267-391-7425. If you're not convinced, just look at the Google reviews for Mortgage CS, over 200 5-star reviews. MortgageCS.com/Ricky. Thank you, Mortgage CS. This ad is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com/Ricky for more information. All right. The mailbag, you can either send us an email or or leave a voicemail for us. Email is rightstorickysanchez@gmail.com. Voicemail is 833-LickFace. That's 833-LickFace. This comes from Will. Doing my best to be level-headed. Unfortunately, and I know how stupid this reads, but Bill Simmons has been on this Knicks rumor for years. So for context here, before we finish off the email, Simmons mentioned on his pod that he should, which we just heard of, actually, the podcast, that you should keep an eye on Embiid trying to force his way to the Knicks. Now, we first brought this up when Leon Rose signed to be their president of basketball ops. Leon Rose used to be Embiid's agent at CAA. Embiid is no longer at CAA. He is independent. Anyway, I don't want you and Mike to relitigate your Simmons feelings. We get it. However, Simmons has been on this for a while, and I think it's at least worth a discussion on the pod. I think we're gaslighting ourselves a little bit, hand-waving over Embiid's body language and mood for a while. This is not a 2-game phenomenon. Great content already, and it's barely been a week. I hate this team. So, and the other thing that Simmons mentioned was that Embiid is unhappy or could be unhappy about all the things that were done to specifically make Harden comfortable, and that he feels unsettled in his place with the Sixers. How much credence would you put in this?
None.
Zero.
None.
Zero.
None.
None. Why would he say it? Do you think he's
because he's a Celtics fan?
Reading? Do you think? Well, he is pretty connected.
Who would? Embiid doesn't have an agent.
Does not currently have an agent.
Who is who would he hear this from other than maybe Knicks people?
Could be Knicks people.
Not I think, and definitely not going to be concerned 3 games into a season.
Where
they got PJ Tucker because Embiid asked him to.
Let me offer this.
With Harden. 0.
I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just playing a devil's advocate here. All right, we can do the who does he know, but having done this podcast for a while, even if you or I do not reach out to anyone to find out anything, as soon as you start having a voice, people start wanting to tell you things. And people who matter start to wanting to tell you things, even if you don't seek it out. So take you or I and multiply it by 1 million, and you get where Simmons is. So my only counter would be, I don't think he's making it up. I don't think it's merely tea leaf reading. It might be a step beyond tea leaf reading, not a report from somebody close to Embiid, but I think it's probably a step below tea leaf reading.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of rumors like that of this guy wants to get this guy, this doesn't want to be there anymore. Him and him are talking of we're trying to get this, whatever. It's all, I think, has the idea of playing for the Knicks and maybe crossed Joel's mind at any point. Sure, maybe it was something. Maybe this is something from years ago, and everyone's just assuming that it's still going to come together. I don't know. I think that it honestly could have been from the Colangelo years or something like that. Embiid knows that this is his team and this is his city, and Daryl's his guy, and they went out and got guys to help him. Ben's no longer there. He said he likes Daryl, and Daryl's very smart, and they've had smart GMs except for one. I just don't. There's a chance that at some point this was more of a possibility, but he signed a big ass contract. He's happy to be here. He's you know, he's gotten lapped by like Nick Sirianni and Bryce Harper as far as like who is Mr. Philadelphia, but like Embiid's pretty close.
Okay. This comes from, I believe the name is Kiosev. Hello from Ukraine, guys. Don't want to sound too grim, but is this the season when Joel asks out? Couldn't think of a decent non-basketball question. Sorry.
He doesn't want to sound too grim.
Yeah.
He's worried about us. Doesn't want to sound too grim.
Hold on.
It's 3 games into the season. Guys,
I know.
It's 3 games into the
But
season.
it couldn't be worse.
It's very funny. It's objectively weird. It's unpleasant, but it is funny. And the fact that the Phillies and Eagles, man, I can't tell you what air cover it's giving them. And they're
a lot of cover.
The season is long. Ask us in January when we've done 40 more podcasts how long it's a long season.
For sure.
They will be like 7-5, and you'll be like, okay, it'll be fine. It'll probably be fine. Or they go to 0-8, and that's also really funny. How many games do you think they have to lose? How many games do they have to lose before Doc gets fired?
7.
You think 0-7 they fire Doc?
Yeah, I don't think before that. I think Daryl's got to be real fucking sure. I think he knows in his gut. All right, like this has to be a no doubt about it firing, and I think you got to get to like 6 or 7.
Okay. So
what do you think?
Sixers Pacers tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be a fucking terrible loss.
Losing to the Pacers and Spurs back to back would be bleak.
That
would be some alarm bells.
Yep.
And then 2 on the road against the Raptors, then the Bulls, who are also scuffling, then the Wizards twice. So should be some wins in there. Should be like 4 or 5 wins. Let's say you split with Toronto. Like, should be. But if not, so you're saying if they lose to the Wizards, that'd be, I think, 7 games. So after the Wizards.
Can you imagine?
0-7.
Yeah.
Doc Rivers fired.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah.
With all the good feelings that was coming in the offseason and all like the South Carolina and
vibes
everyone
are
playing
immaculate.
together,
Vibes
everybody having
vibes.
fun.
Vibes.
That would be pretty funny to go 0-7 and fire Doc. That would be something. But no, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna be fine. Does this give me like pause for the going forward in the season, like in the playoffs? Like a ton to figure out. But as far as
we can't even tank because the Nets get the pick.
Yes, I don't think that they're going to tank. I think that would be surprising to me if they tanked.
All right,
you know, Phillies are 1 win away from the World Series. It's important to know. It's important to note that. And the vibes just across the parking lot are very good, very high.
But by the way,
loud fans being very excited. As Phillies Astros possibly could be Phillies as the sweetheart, as the protagonist. Babyface Phillies against the evil Astros.
Yep.
Just check in with the Sixers season in a couple weeks. It's gonna be fine. They'll be all right.
Honestly, Daryl basically complaining about Philadelphia in the offseason. Not really complaining, Daryl, relax. But the temperature of the city going from hot to cold so quickly is such a gift right now for the Sixers.
Yeah.
As many times as it hurts them, it is like so low on the fucking radar right now.
Yeah.
God bless them. This is a voicemail that came in to 833 Lickface, specifically to Mike. Again, leave us a voicemail at 833 Lickface.
This is Brian from Maryland. The crowd's booing Embiid, rightfully so. The Sixers are now teaching him to fall onto the ground intentionally. At what point are you, Mike, going to turn full heel on Embiid? I'm there. It's game 2, and I'm there.
Game 2. I wonder what that guy's doing after the Spurs.
The Spurs loss, yeah.
They've always been teaching Embiid to fall. That's been years. There's been years of that.
Stan Van Gundy did make a good point about that. One of his few good points in his annoying coffee breath analysis is he was like, if he keeps falling down all the time on purpose and their transition defense is bad, that might not be helping. It's not a bad point, you know?
Can you explain coffee breath for Stan Van Gundy? I wanted to elaborate on that.
It's him and Thibodeau I just look at as like yelling all the time and barely sleeping. So they're always drinking coffee. So I just imagine him just like at the practice facility screaming incessantly and drinking coffee right before practice. So I assume that he has bad coffee breath.
Okay. That's fair.
It's something, right? I mean, I have thought about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. I didn't want to skip past it. I wanted to give you the opportunity to
for sure
elaborate. No, as far as going heel on Embiid, I've tinkered with it. Like I've played around with like being like holding him accountable at least. But
I think we have.
I'm never gonna turn ever full heel on Embiid. I'm never gonna say like it's time to trade him.
No,
I'm trying to like build around somebody else, like break it up. Like I'm not. He is he as far as like superstars go? Is he a flawed one? Absolutely. And it is a specific kind of team that has to be built around him, and he has to play to such a level because of the things kind of holding him back. Like for sure, he's not just, let's pick an example. He's obviously better than this player, but like as far as like Paul George could fit on any team, like his skill set as like the number, I guess he wouldn't be a number one superstar, but like as a number two, like Kevin Durant, like
Paul George, that would be the first wing on the Sixers.
Yeah,
it would be exciting.
Well, Jimmy.
Oh, right. No, I mean on the current Sixers.
Current Sixers, sure.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. It's definitely like trickier, and he is because of his, he's not just. He's a big fucking load, man. Like he's a big load, and when he's not like playing like the best basketball, the way that the NBA is now, he can't just be Shaq inside and just like dunk on everybody and it's easy. Like it is a different kind of thing, and so he can look bad. He's more capable of looking bad than a lot of other superstars in the top 10, 15, whatever, in the league. And that is, I think, why sometimes it gives everybody pause. But he's also really capable of impacting the game at a level that almost nobody else can. So not going to turn heel on him.
Final email. This comes from Cameron, writes streakysanchez@gmail.com. Many times this offseason, Mike, and by the way, I think we have over the last couple of years done a good job at holding Embiid accountable for their failures in the playoffs. I think whether it is you or I think we have traded off not only advocating for his credit when he plays well, but certainly noting when he has not lived up to the moment. And we said it in the lead up to this season that he has to, if they lose in the playoffs, it can't just be that the splits are better with him on the court. We have to look at his performance and say that he did all that he could do.
Yeah. This isn't a Homer podcast.
No.
This is not just, we are critical, almost too critical.
Yeah. This comes from Cameron. Many times this offseason, Mike has mentioned how this is the deepest Sixers team he's ever seen in his life. Yet Doc only played 9 games, 9 guys, 1 game at Game 1 and 10 Game 2, 11 if you count the possession Thibault got at the end of the game, and Trez only got 3 minutes. PJ Tucker played 39 minutes last game, the most minutes he's played in any game, postseason included, since 2020. PJ is also the 3rd oldest player in the league. I'm fine with Harden's 40 minutes as he was single-handedly keeping us in the game. This is the Bucks game. But this doesn't seem sustainable for the rest of the season. Shouldn't Thibault be getting some of PJ's minutes, especially on nights when PJ's shot isn't falling? Should Jaden Springer get on the court for end-of-the-game defensive situations? I would settle for Cork and fucking Shake Milton.
Right? Yeah, Shake should definitely be on the court. I think, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what Doc thinks about it as far as like playing more guys and going into his bench. I guess the charitable explanation is like, I'm just trying to get like these 8 guys on the same page and to establish a rhythm between these 8 guys. And then when guys are banged up, then we can insert one player in, and that's the role they're filling and that kind of thing. But you just need somebody to like pop a little bit more than they have. And nobody on the bench has yet, aside from like, hitting a couple shots here and there, whatever. But like nobody's taking over. Really have been disappointed with Melton's defense on ball. Hasn't been as good as as he's capable of. So I don't know. I would definitely stop playing guys 40 minutes in a game, a regular season game that you're losing. I would certainly stop doing that. And I think that there is a little bit of like, I don't know. It feels a little bit like Doc is panicking, and that's why he's playing these guys so many minutes and trying to get to whatever. But it's also like his natural state. Like he wants to just like burn guys and not go to the bench, except for his like extremely defensively limited center that he's insisted on playing. Montrez, who Daryl said Doc is the reason we got Trez on this podcast, and Trez looks like shit. So thank you, Doc, for that so far.
So they play, as you mentioned, the Pacers on Monday, and then 2 against the Raptors. So let's hope they get a win against the Pacers. We did not expect 0-3 here. This was certainly
but honestly, like they've won plenty of regular season games in the past, and where has it gotten us?
Right. So they should lose them.
They should lose them. This is a binding, a fusion moment. They can get together. Us against the world. Doc gets fired. Friggin' Sam Cassell or Dwayne Jones is the coach. Get him in there. Let's go. Mike D'Antoni. Where's Mike D'Antoni coming from? He's on his couch. He's on Embiid's couch.
Yeah,
Mike D'Antoni is sleeping on Embiid's couch.
Just waiting on his couch. Yeah. All right. Well, wait. I had one thing. Fuck. I lost. Oh, San Antonio. Brett Brown, of course, made his first return to the Wells Fargo Center yesterday. And we will go and visit Brett. I saw 2 groups of people yesterday who are going on the return of Fly the Process. We're going to Austin and San Antonio. We'll stay in Austin, take a bus to San Antonio for 3 nights in February to visit Brett Brown with fans of Philly. And if you are interested in going on the trip, you can reserve your spot for $150. Just go to rightstoRickySanchez.com. Will be fun to go see Brett and obviously lose to the Spurs again.
That's right. It'd be great to lose to the Spurs in Brett's house.
By the way, it was fun seeing he got in some foul trouble and missed shots, but it was great seeing Sohan seeing Sohan play NBA basketball. He looks exactly the way I thought he would look. If he can end up being able to shoot corner threes, he's going to be fucking awesome. So
yeah, he's a menace.
And Devin Vassell is good, man. Holy shit. Yeah, he's good, man.
I kept him in execs. He's on my team.
He's good. All right, we will talk to you next time. And by then, the Phillies could be in the World Series. Maybe almost likely will be.
And that's the team we podcast about.
Yeah. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, Lickface.